Welcome to clue 4 of Slipstravaganza. We are going to add an epic border to our Westknits shawl, okay? Are you ready? You've made it this far, so there's no turning back. I'm gonna show you the finished border, so spoiler alert, okay? If you don't wanna see the border, skip ahead to the technique videos. Okay, here it comes. This is the finished border of the shawl. Oh my gosh, we're gonna do some chevrons. We have some 2-row accent stripes with the main color and garter stitch stripes with all 3 contrast colors, okay? This is the large size border with 6 stripes. If you're worried about running out of yarn or if you don't want the most massive schlanket of your life, then go with 3 stripes. So you can do each contrast color and then bind off with I-cord early. So you can skip ahead to the I-cord bind off after working 3 stripes. You could do 4. You could even do 2 if you want a baby border. Go with 6 if you want that large border. If you do more than 6 stripes, you're crazy, okay? You can do it, it's your shawl, but just so you know, you're crazy, okay? 6 is a large border. So pay close attention to the written instructions and look at those slip stitch details. Make sure you're slipping stitches in the right place and that it looks like this. Yeah, follow the rows closely. There's a chart as well. Good luck and pay close attention to these technique tutorials. Here is the end of the row after working all of the section 5 short row triangles. You should have 7 stitches on the left needle after you slip those 3 main color stitches on the final pattern repeat. So 10 total main color stitches remain here. If you don't have 10 stitches, you can sneak in some increases or decreases later to get back on track. Slip those remaining 7 stitches onto your right needle, and that's the end of section 5. Now slide all the stitches, scoot them over so that we're going to work another right side row using the main color for section 6. So the main color should still be attached. If you broke the main color, just add the main color for section 6, row 1. Knit 3, knit front back, knit 6, yarn over, knit 1 15 times. So place a yarn over before each of these contrast color stitches. After you yarn over, knit 1 15 times, 1 more yarn over, and knit the 3 main color stitches. And repeat. We'll do that 25 more times to all of the short row triangles. Yarn over, knit 1, 15 times, yarn over, knit 3. Here is the 15th, yarn over, knit 1, and yarn over, knit 3. Yarn over, knit 1, 15 times. Here are rows 1 and 2 completed of section 6 chevrons. I have stitch markers in the middle of every triangular point. So on row 2, wrong side, whenever you're placing the stitch markers, they're going to be placed on either side of the center 3 stitches at the center of the point. So you have that center stitch from the triangle and the 2 stitches coming from the yarn overs, and stitch markers marking these center increase points for the chevron border. You should have 903 stitches. That's a lot of stitches, but it's going to be a lot of beauty. So continue with row 3 using contrast color 1. Knit 3, knit front back, knit 4, slip the marker, slip 3 with yarn and back, slip, slip, knit, knit 12, after knitting 12, you should be right before the marker. Make one using a backwards loop cast on. You can do this backwards loop cast on this way, or you could twist it this way, as long as you get an increased stitch. Make one before the marker, slip marker, knit 3, slip marker, and another make one. We'll always make one on the right side outside of these markers. So whenever you're looking at the right side, before you slip this first marker, make one, and make one after that second marker. Knit 12, and knit 2 together, and repeat from the asterisk to 3 stitches before the final stitch marker. So repeat the instructions inside the asterisks. Here's the slip 3 with yarn and back. So on row 3, we're going to slip these 3 main color stitches in every repeat, increase on the outside of the markers at the center of the triangle, and do that until 3 stitches before that final stitch marker here at the end of the row. We'll end with slip these 3 with yarn and back, and finish the row, and continue to work these border rows and follow them very closely so that you're increasing and slipping stitches in the right place. When you reach the center of the triangle on row 3, you can knit these stitches in between the markers, and then we can take the little tail from contrast color 2 and start doing the weave in Steven. Do your make one increase, and after each stitch you can wrap the yarn, the tail of yarn, around your working yarn to weave in this end as you go. And then you won't have all of these tails from the contrast color 2 triangles. So I've been doing that to all of my triangles, and it helps secure the ends as you go. So then you can just snip these ends after you've done that weave in Steven. I'm doing this for about 10 to 12 stitches after the increase at the center. I've done that wrap about 10 times now, and I'm getting ready for my decrease. So after you knit the 12 stitches, doing your wrap, knit 2 together, and slip those 3 main color stitches with yarn in back. Slip, slip, knit, and keep following row 3. All right, look at that beautiful border. This is the time where we can customize our shawl. As you work the border, you can stop after any contrast color stripe. So I recommend to stop here after row 24 if you want a smaller border. And you can have 3 stripes, contrast color stripes. If you want a larger shawl, keep going. Make it as big as you want. I'm working my 6th final stripe with contrast color 3. 1, 2, 3. Contrast color 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna have plenty of yarn to finish this shawl. So when you're doing the increases with your contrast color stripes, if you're increasing next to slip stitches, I like to lift the contrast color float and work a make one right or a make one left. And then slip the 3 stitches. So this is only if you're working the make one increases next to slip stitches, which I'm doing in my 6th contrast color stripe. So make one, again, you could do the backwards loop cast on. That's a good make one. But if you want it to be a little bit tighter, you can substitute a make one left or a make one right by lifting the contrast color strand and knitting, twisting it by knitting through it. So that's another way to make one next to the slip stitches. As you work the border, pay close attention to the slip stitches. You'll notice in the first contrast color stripe, I was slipping 3 stitches by all of my decreases and knitting next to my increases. The next time you work your other contrast color, you're gonna slip the 3 stitches by the increases instead of knitting them. So look how the slip stitches stagger. Slip, don't slip. Slip, don't slip. And then the next contrast color, you slip those 3 stitches of the main color. So just follow the rows very closely and then make sure it looks like this. Yeah, don't get too much into a habit. You're not always slipping the same 3 stitches here. Look, I slipped them, then I knit my stitches. I slipped the main color, and then I knit. So just make sure it looks like that. Follow the row closely. Knit when you should knit, slip when you should slip, and it's gonna look very beautiful, just like that. Knit for as many contrast color stripes as you want. I'm going to do 6 of them and then continue on to the bind off, and we're almost done. I am reaching the finish line of Slipstravaganza. I'm binding off on the wrong side. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, and slip those 3 stitches onto the left needle. We're going to do this until you have 6 total stitches remaining. Slip the 3 and knit 2 and knit 2 together through the back loop. When you do your I-cord bind off, don't bind off too tight or too loose. Do a little stretch test and make sure that your bind off has a little bit of stretch to it. You don't want it to be super tight. So you want these chevron points to be able to stretch a little bit. Here is my final knit 2 together through the back loop. There should be 6 total stitches. Have 3 stitches remain on your right needle and the last 3 stitches on your left needle. You can break or cut your yarn and then place your stitches so that the needle tips are facing each other. but we want the purl bumps to be facing each other as well. So I'm going to take these stitches off carefully and put them back on like this so that the purl bumps of these 3 stitches and these 3 stitches are kissing each other. And we're looking at the smooth knit stitches on the outside. With the tapestry needle, place the main color through the tapestry needle, graft the 6 stitches together using Kitchener stitch. Go through the front stitch purlwise, go through the back stitch knitwise. Now we're going to go through the front stitch knitwise and take it off. Go through the next front stitch purlwise, leave it on. Now the back needle purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on. The front needle knitwise, off, purlwise, on, and the back needle purlwise, off, knitwise, leave it on. And to finish up, we'll go through the front needle knitwise and the back needle purlwise. This is going to make a beautiful seamless join for the corner of your shawl. Now go ahead and weave any extra ends in. I'm going to weave this last tail in to the wrong side. I usually just use a whip stitch when I deal with my ends. So I'm whipping this tail into the wrong side. When you've done enough, about this much or so, go ahead and snip your tails. I snip my tails about here, not too close to the fabric. Don't want to cut that fabric. Snip the tails. And then I'm looking at the wrong side. We're going to weave in our ends. Luckily, as I was knitting, I often did the weave in Steven, so a lot of my ends are already tucked into the fabric. So just trim them before you soak and block your shawl. If you have any ends that aren't woven in yet, like here I have a few. I didn't do that weave in Steven trick. So if you have any ends hanging, go ahead and just whip stitch them through the wrong side of the fabric. On the wrong side of the fabric, I'm looking at the triangular short rows, and I also was doing that weave in Steven trick. So those ends are already taken care of, but I forgot to do it. I didn't do it on all of them. So look here on those triangle short rows, I still have some ends that weren't woven in. So go ahead, if you have them from the triangle, just weave them into the wrong side of the fabric. And I'm just going to trace some stitches on the wrong side of this triangle. Do a few there, and I'll go down to this row and do a few here. And the triangle's so tiny up at the top, so you can kind of trace the lines of the triangle and work your way down, securing those ends. There we go, that's enough. So I did a little zigzag of whip stitching the ends in on the wrong side of the triangle. So snip all of your ends and then give your shawl a nice soak in cool water, not too hot. I soak my shawls in cool water and then squeeze out the water, and then you can block the shawl, accentuating these chevron points. Here's the Slipstravaganza blocking. When you block it out, look how it stretches and arches out. Now you can accentuate this curve a little bit more if you want to, or you could accentuate it a little more straight, so you can kind of customize the shape a little bit upon blocking. I pinned each honeycomb onto the carpet first. So block onto a carpet or a mattress, or if you have a bunch of blocking mats. You can kick your kid out into the living room and he can sleep on the couch, so you can block on his bed. He should understand how much you worked on this shawl. So when you pin the base of section 1, place a pin in the middle of the slip stitch sections so that it exaggerates that honeycomb shape. So you can do that first, and then maybe pin a couple points along the wingspan edge, and then pin the tip out. And then you can start to put a pin onto each chevron point. And block it out first, put the pins in, and then you might have to shift them. Sometimes it might look a little wonky, so you can shift the pins. So put them in the carpet or the blocking mats first, but it's okay if once they're in, you shift them a little bit to exaggerate that stretch. And then it's really going to reveal all of those yummy stitch details when it's all stretched out. Congratulations, you finished your Slipstravaganza. It should look like this, I hope. Or it might still be bunched up on your needles. You can finish it this winter or next year. Just, yeah, go at your own pace, okay? Don't rush through it. But it should look like this. This is the shawl. So I blocked this out. You gotta block it and rock it. And there's no right way to wear a Westknits shawl, okay? I don't know what I made you do with me. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna call it a shawl. And you can drape it over your shoulders and toss it around. So many ways to play with the shape. I like to put one end on one shoulder, asymmetrically, and then you have this big tail that you can toss around. So go ahead and play. My number one way to wear these shawls, if you wanna scarf it up, is to bunch the fabric first and then wrap it around. And that's gonna give you a layered effect where it's not too long. So bunch it up, and then you can pull on the fabric to reveal what sections you wanna see. Ooh, I wanna see that column, that contrast color 2 column. So play around, you can tie the ends. There's no right way to wear these. So share your pictures of how you style it and how you wear it. Take a picture on your cat, on your dog, the pets of MCAL 2020, and I wanna see how you use it in your life, because we spent a lot of time on this, okay? We've gotta get creative and wear it however you want. So thanks for trusting me, thanks for knitting along. We're gonna do this again next year. Next year will be the 12th mystery shawl, so that's gotta be even better than this year. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start designing now. And yeah, you might see some of these textures in other designs in the near future. So keep a lookout, take your time with the shawl, and you may see some of these other details appear in new ways for some winter Westknits designs. So keep knitting and sharing your progress, and I'll see y'all later.